One of the biggest judgments of all time that I ever get is why I don't have a 9 to 5 job. A little over 7 years ago, I quit my 9 to 5 job and have not been employed since. One of the biggest misconceptions that I have heard over the years is that you must have a job in order to financially support yourself and function in society. And the fact is that you do have to work and you do have to make an income, but that does not mean that you have to have a job. You don't have to have an employer. You don't have to work for somebody else. A little disclaimer, I'm going to share my perspective and my opinion, but that does not mean that you have to have the same perspective and opinion that I do. I have my own experiences and you have your own experiences. I'm just going to share with you what my life has been like and what has led me up to not being employed. So let's go back to a long, long time ago. When I was in my early 20s, I had two very young kids and I was in an abusive relationship. I needed to get out. I needed to leave with my kids. It was scary and it was just a really bad situation. I was young, I was naive, and I realized that financially I needed to be independent and I couldn't rely on anybody else. So I got a job. I worked full time. I did what I needed to do to get myself out of that situation. And I did. And I did it pretty quickly. It wasn't a cut and dry leave situation, but it ended up being me, the sole provider of two little kids, living on my own, no child support ever. I never received any child support, and I never received any physical support, emotional support, nothing. So I learned very early to be very financially responsible, very financially independent, physically independent. I did all the things I was supposed to do. Worked full time. I went to school full time. I went back and got a degree. I've gotten several college degrees. I just did all of those things. And guess what? I got burnt out. It was too much. Around that time, my kids started going to public school, and public school just wasn't ideal for my kids. They did fine, but they were not happy there. It was overwhelming. Come to find out, we are all neurodivergent. We are autistic. We have ADHD, just a variety of different fun little things that make life a little bit more challenging for us, that make normal, everyday, typical life a little bit more challenging for us, which explains the burnout that I was having, my kids were having, and I decided to homeschool them. I needed to come back home. We needed to have our own time together, and I needed to figure out a way to make money that wasn't just working for somebody else. So I started my own business. Special interest of mine is dogs. I love dogs. And so I was doing dog stuff on the side, and I ended up supplementing about half of my income with dog business. And then I was also working part-time also with dogs for an employer. I did that for years. I worked part-time, I homeschooled, I did my own business part-time, and that worked fine for a bit. And then I realized that, you know what, I can totally quit my job and do what I was doing full-time and just work for myself and make my own money and have enough money to be able to take care of all of our needs. Time is really the only thing of value that you have. Money is this man-made concept that isn't even real. It's just the way that we are currently functioning in our society. So yes, you do have to have money to survive today. You have to keep a roof over your head. You have to buy food. You have to buy things that you need. And if you don't have enough money, then you will suffer in today's world. But understanding that time is by far more valuable than money, you need just enough money to survive and be happy and to meet your basic needs. But beyond that, you are trading in time for that money, time that you will never get back, time with your family, time having experiences and learning things. You only get one life to live. And if you are spending all of that time doing stuff that you do not enjoy doing, going to a job that you absolutely hate, then you are wasting the only thing of value that you truly have as a human being. One of the biggest challenges that I really face in this world in general is being autistic. I am both autistic and have ADHD, and that just makes me function a little bit different. And it makes typical life, typical work environment, typical just society in general challenging. Like, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me. I don't dislike the way that I function and the way that I think, but trying to function and interact with other people and in other environments that don't suit me is a very, very difficult and very challenging. It's overwhelming, and it is an act and a mask that I have to constantly adjust to that is not normal and natural for me. So working a typical job is far more challenging for me to keep up with than it is a normal person. And it's not the job itself. Like, the job itself, I'm fine. I got it. It's just all of the little social interactions that I have to do all day. Adhering to somebody else's schedule. When I work, that is basically all I can do with my life is I can work. I'm either at work, or I am recovering from work, or I am preparing for work the next day. Even the most basic, simple job is just, the whole thing to me is not really something that I can maintain. It is not an intellectual problem. It is not an inability to do the job. I'm usually very good at my job, but I cannot do that for a long time. I need periods of time when I work at a very high intensity and I get it done, and then I need downtime. And our world is not set up for people like me. Being able to work for myself and work when I need to and work best and do the things that I need to do in order to make work happen is just the ideal environment for me. I am honestly grateful that I am autistic and that my brain does function the way that it does, because it does allow me to be able to figure out a way to make money on my own. It has encouraged me and really motivated me to figure out a way to do that for myself. And it is something that I have always done my entire life. Like, even as a teenager, I was always constantly thinking about ways that I can start my own business, do my own thing, make my own money. And my goal is never to become an ultra wealthy millionaire who makes tons of money. That's a lot of what we see on social media of, like, I quit my job and now I make, $200,000 a month or whatever crazy thing it is. That's not what I want to do. I just want to make enough money to be able to support myself and my family. Enough is fine. And that's always been my goal. I don't want to work so many hours and put so much effort and time into something that is more than I need. And like, the important thing is like, everybody gets to choose for themselves how much they work, be that at a typical 9-to-5 job. I get that some people, that's easier for some people to just be able to go to a job, clock in, clock out, get the job done, get a paycheck. I totally wish that I could do that. That seems so much easier than having to constantly figure out, ways to make money. I mean, pros and cons to each. Personally, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy the game of it, the game of making enough money and figuring that out and improving myself. Like, that is fun for me, but I totally get wanting to just clock in and clock out. And sometimes when I get tired and overwhelmed, like I want to do that too. Like I can see the benefit of that. But everybody gets to choose. The entire job market is changing so much, and it is going to continue to change more rapidly in the future. We have more opportunities to work for ourselves now than ever before. We have AI coming in, and it's going to be replacing a lot of jobs, which is scary, honestly. And we have just new technology as far as like there's so many online opportunities to be able to work and make your own money now. Everything is changing with advertising. Like YouTube is the number one streaming platform. Micro influencers, smaller creators. A lot of the negativity that I notice around jobs and like having a job is from older generations. And the reality is just that people get set in their ways and they don't quite understand how things are changing and evolving. And it is really hard to open up your perspective a little bit and understand how things are changing and how things are different now. We also have this crazy cost of living increases. Things are different economically, and people are looking for different ways to make money, ways that are more efficient, where they don't have to commute to work, where they can work anywhere, work remotely, and have multiple streams of income, because things are just not as reliable. Even if you have a 9-to-5 job, you are not guaranteed to keep that job. People lose jobs all the time, and you have to really be responsible for yourself, take autonomy, and that will relieve a lot of that stress and pressure. Employees are being treated like crap now, and it is getting worse. Salaries are not keeping up with inflation. So even if you do have a job, a lot of people, that's still not enough to make it. You're having to work multiple jobs, and you really cannot just survive on one income anymore. Both, like if you're a couple, like both parents have to be working. The cost of childcare is crazy. Things today are different than they used to be, and they are continuing to evolve. And this means that we need to change the way that we are educating our kids. The jobs in the future for our kids are going to be different. It is going to look so much different than it does even today. We have to adjust, we have to be adaptable, and we have to be prepared for all of these changes that are happening. This is scary news, but it's also really good news because we have more options than ever. Change is scary and it's hard, but it can be good if you make the right choices on the path that you are going to take your life. I am very grateful for my autistic brain because it has allowed me a different perspective. I think in systems, and tradition is really irrelevant to me. So I don't think that just because that's the way we've always done it, that's the way we should continue to do it. That concept doesn't even cross my mind. So I look at the big picture and I'm just like, nope, this isn't working. This isn't going to work for me. I can't do this. I don't care if everybody else is doing this. I don't care if this is what I am supposed to do. It's not working for me, so I've got to do something else, and I'm going to find a different way, a way that's going to make it work for me. I have always been different from everyone else. I have always had more challenges than other people, and I am just used to doing things the way that I'm going to do them, people judging me for it, and that's okay with me. If you hate your job and don't want to work a job and don't think that a 9-to-5 job is right for you, if you are struggling for whatever reason, it does not have to be the same reasons that I'm struggling or that anybody else is struggling. The fact that you do not want to spend your time working for someone else is okay. That is in and of itself valid. So you can find a different way to do things. My number one piece of advice is to not take advice from people that aren't where you want to be. If your parents have worked the same job for 40 years and then retired to the same house, the same neighborhood, and they did the same thing, the traditional values, whatever, and you don't want that, don't take their advice. Go and find somebody who's doing life the way you want to do it and take their advice. See what they've done to get them where they are today, because everybody else's advice is going to be wrong for you.